better? Okay, this is going to start being a bit better. Desktop audio advice. We want to go mic. Okay, we're coming through. Sound is back with echo. Far out. All right. Listen, this is interesting because mic is on. No, we want to. Yeah, that should work. All right. That's happening. Okay, kids talk in the. Sorry, kids. That sounds patronizing. Can you talk into the chat, everyone?
Yes.
I can talk.
Muted my damn mic.
Yeah, it was Streamlabs, everyone. I'm so sorry for that little hiccup for the first cheeky 8 minutes. Streamlabs decided to reset all of my mixer settings. So my mixer was broken and I had to give it a little bit of CPR. But that's not foreshadowing for anything here. Is there an echo again? Is there a mic twice? There could be. Let's have a look-see. No? There should only be one. Is it still echo? The conversions came early. No echo? Okay, great. Let's just kick this off. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Book Chat. We're currently reading Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. It is on a Thursday night. Thanks for everyone for being patient while I went to a gala last night. This is a really wonderful book, and Colleen in the chat has been championing this book for a while. So Colleen, I want to hear from you. How did you discover this book, and is this your first time reading it?
This is my second read through, and I started off reading a couple of other books by Rebecca Roanhorse. She's Navajo, and so I kind of knew a little bit about Navajo culture since I've got quite a few Navajo nieces and nephews. So I just kind of, I guess, followed breadcrumbs and found this book next.
Yes, this is a good one.
I love this one.
So
this is my favorite so far.
Oh, out of all the ones you've read from her?
Yeah, but I haven't read Fevered Sun yet.
No, this is the sequel.
Or Fevered Star.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that comes next.
Yes. The old book 2 that we're not talking about. It was all about Black Sun now, part 1, book 1 for this fantasy series. If you want to know a little bit about this series, here's the synopsis. 300 years prior to the main story. Oh, wait. What? The War of the Spear began after a spearwoman I think this is a prequel. Maude, you just copy and pasted. You're not on a roll, girl. You are not on a roll. Basically... They put up the prequel information. It's all right. I'll do a little summary. Here we are. Cool. So it's Black Sun is the first book in the Between Earth and Sky series, which is by Rebecca Roanhorse. Thank you so much, Bad Rabbit Bacon. What a great name. Thanks for the follow. It's an epic fantasy novel that focuses on indigenous characters, settings, and mythologies. The book is a secondary world fantasy. Its setting is distinct from the real world. It uses fictionalized setting and cultures as allusions to real-world pre-Columbian cultures, which is really, really fascinating. Roanhorse is an indigenous writer dedicated to representing indigenous cultures and characters within her science fiction and fantasy work. So this particular book, Black Sun, refers to an event which happens during the book's climax called the Convergence, and it occurs during the winter solstice when the moon eclipses the sun, which causes the sun to appear black, hence the book being called Black Sun. It uses it's got extensive use of flashbacks to move temporally and illustrate connections between the past and the future events. There are a few places in the book where back-to-back chapters will narrate chronologically in sequential events, so that doesn't happen all that often. It basically centers around 4 main characters, and that's what we're going to get into. Serapio, Shala, Naranpa, are the main three, and then you get Okoye as well. So let's chat about some of these characters. Before we do that, a little bit of housekeeping. K Frito, you just gifted a sub to Ubu49. Thank you so much for doing that. KP Dubs, you gifted a couple of subs as well. Appreciate that. Rob VPB, Nakey Blakey, pop some clothes on, bud, and Brolbaticus Maximus all got gifted a sub thanks to you. If you're in here and you got gifted a sub, and when I say here, I mean Twitch for now. Hi, TikTok, I see you too. If you got gifted a sub, make sure you shout out to KP Dubs for that one. And thanks for the bits earlier. And shout out to Play the Board, who's resubscribed for 10 months. K Frito gifted a sub to Burn JJ. Vaden, 25 months. Miss Necromancer, 17. And Eberant Aaliyah for 14. Thank you so much for those. Yeah. So we're going to dive into this book. Colleen says Trail of Lightning was the first of her books that draws more on the Navajo culture. That's cool. Shout out to TikTok. Everyone is just, reeling in the fact that I didn't have sound 5 minutes ago. And then Keith Lee said, did you meet Kevin Hart? Yes, a few times. Good. All right, back to the book chat, which I have in front of us. What I like about Rebecca Roanhorse, she wrote this book in 2020. The sequel came out, Fevered Star, in 2022. In 2021, it won the Alex Award. In 2021, it won the Ignite Award for Best Adult Novel, and it was nominated for the Locus Awards for Best Fantasy, the Nebula Award for Best Novel, and the Hugo Award for Best Novel as well. Okay. First impressions, I guess, is a good place to start around here. What are we thinking of this so far? I kind of want to draw upon Ken, who wasn't going to read this book but ducked out to the shops to get it. Now that you've been power reading through this, Ken, what are your thoughts about Black Sun?
Right from the first couple chapters, I've been really into it. And it's been a quick read. Like, I'm blowing through chapters like they're not even there. Can't wait for book chat to get done tonight because I'm probably going to finish it in the next day or two. I'm really into it. Okay,
love that one. Book good, according to Ken.
Yeah.
Lisa, what are you thinking? Oh, we got a couple of Lisas? We got a Lisa in the chat. We got a Lisa in the voice call. Lisa in the voice call. What do you think of this one?
Enjoying it. It's the characters are all interesting, and I want to know more. I'm really liking Narampa's character, so I'm excited to continue. I almost read over like you did. I started listening too far. I was like, oh crap, I had to stop. But I like it a lot.
Okay. Vaden, what are you thinking of this one?
I'm loving the book so far. The characters are interesting, the plot's interesting, and I love all like the reference to like, I guess, Native American and other mythology.
Fantastic. Tamesu, are you liking this one? Book good?
I think so. Too soon to tell, though. I feel like not. I mean, we got to chapter 19.
Yes.
And still sort of seeing kind of what happens. So, but I mean, I like the imaginative use of this alternative, I guess, Mesoamerican. Seems pretty authentic at school. But I think, yeah, let's kind of see what happens. Need more.
Okay. All right. Little tentative. Jimmy, what are you thinking of this one? Sprinkles? Happy birthday for a couple of yesterday, was it? Happy birthday.
It was Tuesday. It was election day.
Tuesday. Yeah.
My birthday is so important that they had to vote on it.
It was Vaden's the day before that as well. We had 2 club members' birthdays this week. Happy birthday, everyone whose birthday was on. What'd you think?
I enjoy the book. I don't know if anyone else was thinking about this, but I was thinking of the character from Mortal Kombat, Kotal Khan. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but he's basically like, for lack of a better term, he falls in the lines of Native American kind of deities.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I just looked it up.
It's very cool. Like I was getting that kind of vibes. Like you know, like it was very spiritual. It was very, explorative. You know, I hope I'm saying that right. But it was enjoyable, bottom line. So
I like hearing that. I'm trying to add the image so I can show you. because this is a visual show with only audio voices. So if I can add it, I will. Boom, there it is. This is Kotal Khan. There you go. Now we got an image to the. Yay! You did that. Okay, Frito. Yay, first try over here. Thank you for your input. Kate, what are we thinking of this one?
I'm loving it so far. I really like her writing. It's very evocative, and the characters are all really interesting. The lore is really interesting. I'm very fascinated by the teak lore, so I'm really, really into it. I bought the second one the other day.
Oh, okay. All right.
Star.
It seems like we are going to have to go there then. I like it. I think, and if it's only a duology, then that's easy for me. Clever Girl says, I keep thinking of Tenoch Huerta as Serapio. Is he the villain in the upcoming Wakanda Forever movie? Yes, I was too. So that's great casting. There you go. Those that aren't in the book Discord, I would love to hear from you. Toaster Poster says, book good. I got a bit lost in the info dumps in the beginning, but when the story got going, I loved it. So far, 4 out of 5. Blue Reader Girl says, I felt the same, stuck in the info dump for a bit, and then it picked up. Book 3 has been announced, says Ken. Good, okay. Avery says, yes, a trilogy, I'm pretty sure, but the third one is not done yet. Lisa says, yeah, I bought both books on audio during one of Audible's sales. I'm ready when everyone else is. PTB, play the board. What are we thinking for this one? Book good?
I think the book is very good, and I have to confess that I also read chapter 20. I thought I was supposed to read through chapter 20, but even before chapter 20, I thought the book was good.
Give it, then it gets so much better. It gets so good. Yes. Oddball, you there? Are you reading this one?
Yes, I am.
What are you thinking?
It's really good. Chapter 1 was probably like one of the greatest standout chapters of like a chapter 1 from the book. It was just nuts to start.
That's interesting that you say that, because it was kind of a lot for me. Going through this, I was like, wow, if this is what we're going to expect, it's like, oh, we're in for a really kind of tough ride. But seeing the first chapter is basically from an outsider looking in, child abuse. I don't know how else to say it, but basically culturally, this mother knows that her son is going to be basically a carrier of God. He's going to become a god, a vessel for God. And through that, there are cultural sort of ritualistic things to do that involve body maiming. She carves a crow skull from the nape of his neck, from here downwards, and wings on his back, and they are carved out, and then he's blinded and his eyes are sewn shut. And this is all a part of a ritual to be the vessel for God. But the mother did it without the father's permission, and you kind of understand that there's a lot of discourse happening there. They have very different backgrounds, but yeah, when you kind of start there, you're like, whoa. But then you kind of understand, and you see the kid's name when he's 12, this all happens, and he's Serapio, and then you kind of get Serapio's sort of training, and then where he's at now, and you recognize and realize that he's got powers, and he's actually full-on mystical demigod, soon to be god. Yeah, it's really fascinating. So I'm glad you mentioned the opening chapters there. Tim, I know you've only read the first 11 chapters, but what are your first impressions?
I'm sold. This book, like you were just saying about the first chapter, like it comes out fast, like comes right at you from the gate. And I was sold right away. That whole description of that ceremony that Serapio and his mom did, and it was kind of weird because I was reading that and I was thinking about, I was like, she's like, stare at the sun, and then I was like, why? And then I was like, oh, it's an eclipse. Don't stare at the eclipse.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those, like, in the back of my mind, I was thinking that, and so I've just been sold all the way through, and I probably would have the reading done. It's just life kind of got in the way for a bit. So
yeah, shout out to your job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cooking dinner right now.
Oh, what's for dinner?
I am making chicken tacos.
Oh, nice. Over on TikTok, people are saying hi. Keithley says, I read it. It was so good. Seven Pens Betse says, oh, wow, it's Maude from SourceFed. Love you, Maude. Best of luck. Thank you. Best of luck in life or for the show for tomorrow. I'll take it. I'll take it. Ridian's just subbed for 27 months. Thank you so much for doing that. That is amazing. Baden says, if you don't stare at the eclipse, you can't seal in those tasty crow powers. Yeah, I mean, looking at the eclipse, it just reminds me of when Trump fucking did it.
I had the same thought, to be perfectly honest. I was like, no, why? And then I thought, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. Last but certainly not least, Avery, lovely to have you in here. I love that you weren't busy on this Thursday night. How are you finding this one? Book good.
Book very good. I also read this one back when it came out, so this is a reread for me. And I loved it the first time, and I'm loving it just as much this time. So very happy that we're all reading it.
You dropped a bit of a fun fact in the comments saying Kara G from The Expanse is one of the narrators. Do you know which one? It's one of two. It's either going to be Narumpa or it's going to be Ciala. Because one I love, one I don't.
I am not entirely sure. I didn't really look into it. I just knew that she was on the list, and I was like, oh, I know who that is.
One of them's, I really love Ciala's voice actor. The voice actor of Narumpa are affecting the chapters for me. I said it. Colleen says she said normally an uncle does the oh, that's right, the scarification over time. Navajo culture, I'm not sure, never know if I'm saying it right and if I'm doing it justice.
Navajo.
Tell me you're not from America without telling me you are not from America. Getting that dyslexic right into it. Navajo. Yep.
You did great, Maude.
Crushing it. The Navajo.
Not everybody. Yeah, not everybody knows that. So,
well, we're all learning. If you don't know now, we're all learning together. The culture is matriarchal, so the mother's uncle is usually responsible for a lot of the teachings. She did say it would also happen over months, and that it wouldn't be concentrated in this one effort. So this poor kid, Serapio, is just getting carved up. Oh yeah, that's that. Thank you, Godless Monkey. The phoneticism is helping for that too. Hold on, Toaster Poster says some Star Wars things I liked about the book was that there was a chosen one, a scoundrel with a ship, and priests in political control. Oh, there's some great observations of some of the storytelling tropes there. Yeah. Kate. I nearly said it out loud. I was like, what?
I know how Australians say quesadilla. I know.
We're the worst. Alrighty, back to the book. I'm loving this. Some of the things that I'm loving about it is having very distinct, different characters. I'm loving the way that it's written. It's really easy to digest. Yes, there's a bit of an info dump, but we are not only exploring a mystical, fantastical fantasy setting, but introducing whole new magic systems and cultures and fictional locations, but also delving into individual mythology as well, which is very important to this storytelling. I have listened to the first half of the book through twice now, and let me tell you, I learned so much more listening through it the second time. There is a lot of foreshadowing as well, and a lot of explanations that are really subtly done, which I really, really love about good writing. So that's been enjoyable. I have not been bogged down. I thought I would. I mean, this is going to be believable when I say it, but I would get bogged down by some of the names. I know that if it takes a second for my brain to speed read and it's not sort of like native to my language, I guess, it can kind of jolt a little bit. I have loved listening to this. I have loved the flow of it all. I think it's like really, really powerful that it's so like integrates culture and these fantastical names, and it's not, yeah, it's honoring the culture big time, and I Really, really dig that. Because I know that I actually get bogged down by some fantasy writers who are white and they want to make a really fantasy kind of sounding name and it ends up being like 17 syllables. And you're like, that doesn't need to happen. Oh, KP Dubs. Here we are. For those doing audio, Iktan's pronouns are she and sir, Shia. She and Shia. Iktan's a very interesting character. And then KP Dub says, it took me about 10 pages to realize they were pronouns. Yes, initially on my first listen, I thought that they were nicknames. Pailing says, longer names equal smarter names. It's science. Blue Reader Gal says, I totally understood the pronouns things. I think that would possibly be easier reading it. Because I just thought it was like a nickname. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting nickname. But it makes sense now. Thank you, Ryan, in the TikTok. That's very funny. I want to talk about some of these themes that are happening. Actually, do we want to talk about the themes first or do we want to talk about the characters first? What are we feeling, chat? Characters or themes? There's a lot.
I would go with characters first. That's
Let's go characters. I like that because it'll build understanding and then we can talk about the themes that surround them all. All right. So our main characters, we start off with Serapio. What a fantastic name, by the way, Serapio. He's an obedient son whose destiny was chosen for him. His mother died serving this brutal ritual, carving his skin and blinding him. But now that, 10 years later, after we've seen his training in flashbacks, he actually has the most backstory out of all the characters. He has powers now. Using this star pollen that his mother passed down to him, which is this sort of dust in a pouch that he wears around his neck, he can summon crows, and now he can also kind of summon shadow. How would you describe that, chat? How would you describe Serapio's powers with summoning crows, seeing through crows' eyes?
I would say it's like kind of like fairy dust is the best way of saying it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it just, when they do that, the magic appears, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like the catalyst to bring out his powers.
Oddball says spice melange, which is what we saw in June. Rule the spice, you rule the galaxy. Yes, I hear what you're saying with that. But how would you describe what his powers are? So he uses that to access his powers.
It feels like there's like a shadowed, I don't know if dimension is the right word, but there's like a pool of shadow force that he draws on.
Yes.
He threw the mirror and then he uses the dust to get into the crows, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe the shadows are the crow spirit, I guess. Possibly what it is.
Vaden's using D&D terminology, saying he's like a D&D druid in a shamanistic theme. Yeah, that's cool. I did that. KP Dub's adding to the D&D chat. My first level wizard can see through his owl's eyes via the Find Familiar spell. No big deal. Flex. X-Man 0025 says, sorry to interrupt. I just want to thank Vaden for the gifted sub last week. Greatly appreciated. Oh, I love that community. Thank you for being grateful and thank you for honoring a sub from last week. And Vaden, there you go. You gave a gift even though it's your birthday this week. Oh. Anything that gives off crow vibes, says Avery. Tell me more about that. Them crow vibes.
I don't know. I guess she was just like, I guess things that just would generally be related to crows, such as like darkness and like to like see things and remember things, and I don't know.
In your icon, when you talk, so say something, it'll pop up.
Yeah.
There's a crow.
Yeah. I love crows.
Yeah. I love the theme of crows in this one as well. So he can basically transport, he can see through the crow's eyes, he can summon crows. There's beautiful excerpts at the start of each chapter which kind of reflects on sort of observations and journal entries about the culture. And usually with the Carrion Crow, which is the clan that Serapio is from. It's usually like observation of crows from teens and kids. And there's this great little story, a little anecdote of this bully who would always bully those that were less fortunate than him when no one was watching, or when the adults weren't watching. And he would even go as far as to bully the crows. And then all of a sudden he had a little accident and he fell off a cliff and died. It turns out those crows fought back and they pushed him off the edge. So it's definitely reinforcing that crows are very powerful and then can be summoned, and there is a conscious there and a very deep awareness, which I thought is really, really cool. Serapio needs to get to Tova. This is basically the biggest part of two characters' arc, and that is the fact that Shiala is a teak captain who's got abilities of her own. She's captaining this ship, and it's an escort mission, and she has to escort Serapio to Tova within half the time of what it would usually take. But the good news is the power of the teak means that she and her culture, they worship in a way the sea. The sea is the mother, so she can call to the sea. She uses her voice. She can sing to carry the waves so that the ship will go faster. She can navigate the seas like no one else can. She's a superior captain in every way. Play the Board says a group of crows is called a murder. A murder. I was actually, we'll get to that, but I want to talk about the use of crows in different fantasy, because they pop up all the time, and they regionally through every mythology around the globe, from Vikings to I guess indigenous, even in Australia, they all have sort of like what the crow represents, which I think is really cool. Serapio, Ken, you had a little observation about Serapio, the fact that he's got a powerful destiny, but he kind of came to be the chosen one at 12 years of age. What's your question surrounding Serapio?
I don't know if it's a question so much as I'll just be interested to see how he handles this, because, for example, when he's on I want to call it a ship, but they keep calling it a canoe, and he's with the captain, he's clearly, like, never been with a woman before, and he's finding that part intriguing. Also, he's hearing all these different accents from the different members of the crew through the walls. It's part of the world he's never experienced.
He's never eaten seafood and fish before.
Yes, he didn't know how to eat a fish. So all these things that are common to so many people, he's never experienced them. So he's super powerful, super important, this big destiny, but at the same time, he's a kid who hasn't seen or done anything, and it's all brand new to him, and he's like a toddler. He's like, I'm just going to put this in my mouth and see what happens. So it'll be interesting to see how basically those two completely opposite phases of him sort of come together.
I completely agree. His destiny superseded his like childhood and being normal and exploration and experience. It's interesting that he hasn't necessarily been sheltered. The training regime he's gone through has been brutal at times. But I think the thing that Serapio is struggling with the most is isolation. It's the lack of connection he has with other people. He spends all of his time either training or with the crows. And he's trying to master these powers and this new ability, but it's really, he's got no friends except the crows. That's exactly right, Ken. And I think he's really experiencing what it feels like to be an outsider, and it's not fun. But he has no other say, because we're looking at this chosen one trope where he's destined to something bigger than him in a way. And that's been decided for him since, puberty, really. Which is tough. For Vaden, you've got a question about his training. You want to ask that one?
Sure. Let me see. Yeah, basically I'm just curious because we know he's been trained by 3 instructors overall. We've seen 2 of them. So we're just trying to see what purpose is. Like, yeah, he's going to become a god, but why specifically does he want to be taught to chisel, and why to fight?
So he was whittling wood and sculptures, and he had these little sort of carvings that he'd made. The other one was to sort of train without vision as one of the senses. So learning to listen, learning to read body movements, positionings, fine-tuning hearing as an asset. But then, yeah, fighting as well. And he has this really deep, untamed rage inside of him that scares one of the teachers because he nearly takes her eye out.
Is that rage or just using his ability? He just discovered how to use his ability.
Great question. I wonder, because he kind of caught himself going, this feels really good. I'm out for vengeance. I should stop, but I don't want to. And so I feel like he's getting more comfortable with violence and with rage as an emotion. Go Vaden.
Oh, he mentions that he was called a villain at some point, and
yes,
he was saying he kind of liked the sound of it.
He relished in it. He's like, hey, if I'm gonna be called something, villain sounds good to me.
Yeah. Also, I think it's like a power thing for him, not using powers, but like he's been told what to do and forced to do things for all of his life, and now it was a way for him to kind of get revenge, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think he was. I don't know if this could be his character, but that he definitely in that moment wanted to take advantage of it.
Yeah, but it came because she was going to ruin something that he prized. And I feel like he's got so little that he can call his own that tapped into that primal rage. Yeah, Tim says it was rage. Yeah, and he just didn't want to stop, and it felt good acting on it, which in the dating world is a red flag. But this is a fantasy world, and he's about to become a god, so totally different rules. Totally different rules.
Who would date him?
He gets a pass because it's destiny.
I thought we play FMK with the character. Sorry.
What did you say?
Wow.
I wonder if people are going to play FMK with the character.
With which, just him or?
No, all three. Well, I was shortening the names. I think someone who said "Wow" knew what I was talking about.
Got it.
Mary Kell, you know that. Sorry.
Yes.
You want to play FMK with Serapio, Nara, and Jala?
I guess. I don't know. It just came to my mind. I was being silly.
Shala. No one. To answer the question. Let's talk about our fave gal, Shala. Avery, you were singing, pun intended, her praises. What is it that you love about Shala as a character?
Her, she's been put under so much stress and all these people telling her what she is, and I'm none of those things. I don't care what you say about me. She's clearly very proud of herself, of her heritage, where she comes from, of her sexuality, all of that. She doesn't let society's expectations stop her from being herself, and I love that so much. Her confidence is just wonderful.
I'm gonna read out a direct quote from you in the chat earlier. Shala's like, I'm gay and I have magical powers. Don't mess with me. We love that over here. Ken says she's a salty sea captain. She's a marginalized race. She's so many things. Play the Board says she's so unapologetically herself. Kate says Shala is the deal with it meme. Nope. With the glasses going on. So we are introduced to Shala in a very interesting way. She is in jail. She can't really remember the acts of last night. She's trying to piece it together, which is how Fundins and Flying Against Season 2 started. Or was it Season 1? Oh, I can't even remember. No, Season 1. Oh, that's funny. I like that as a storytelling device. Ken says Shala's not a shallow character at all. Nope. Not even a little bit. So we meet her. She's been jailed. She thinks that she's kind of killed someone because they're making such a big deal of why she's behind bars. I did see it. It's a C pun. Give him pun points. We'll give him pun points. I've lost my train of no, I'm good. I'm distracted. She thought she'd killed someone. She thought it was a very dire situation. She finds out she just got a little bit drunk and decided to have sex with a woman. Apparently that was adultery. Apparently they were not okay with that. And we immediately see that she's constantly facing sort of prejudice against her choices and who she is. We learn that she's checking her basically to see if she's got all her bones. She's missing half of her pinky finger because last time, well, one of the times that she got really, really drunk, she trusted the wrong person. He was really cute. He ended up chopping half her finger off because the teak bones are supposed to be good luck. They're charms, they're relics, and they can be sold. So she's obviously got trust issues. People are trying to use literally her body parts to sell them. But we learn a little bit more about what a teak is. Teak are a people that are a little where they are from is actually slightly unknown to anyone that's not teak. So they've got a very distinct air of mystery about them. There is a lot of stories told about them, and teak will even sort of exacerbate and play on some of these stories as well. That what is it that they were born a fish, or they ride manatees. There's like, you know, all of these sort of mythology in here. What are people's first impression about sort of her culture and how it differentiates from the Carrion Crow clan? They come from fish eggs. Yes, that's right. Anyone want to chat to?
Well,
yes.
I think it's a neat. So far, actually, I did find it interesting. It looks like it combines the Siren and Atlantis myths with possibly this idea of an itinerant, Roma gypsy type culture. Because I think a lot of the myths come from the fact that they wander, because they're like, oh, nobody can find the island, or people get seduced there and eaten alive. But it turns out they don't really have an island. I think it just seems like they travel around on the water. Right. And make temporary encampments, which is why nobody can find it, because there is no homeland, right? Got so it. They kind of seem like maybe mer people, but maybe it's just they have a lot of power over the sea. They have that impression that they part fish.
The teak are inspired by native Caribbean and Amazonian cultures. Colleen, ding, 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 you get 10 points because you just said some Amazon vibes too. So one of her powers, and they're known for sort of having these powers, is she can sing, and she harnesses her voice to be able to connect with the mother, which is the sea, the ocean, and she sings to kind of not seduce the ocean, but to kind of warrant passage and kinship and protection, to ask the mother to look after her and everyone on board this vessel. And so they are supposed to be good luck, but there's so much superstition behind them. There's a lot of fear in the unknown, and some of the crew are really, really not okay with having a teak for a captain. And then it's not until she has to win over her first mate, Carlo, where Carlo's on the edge, but they've done a job before, and he's starting to learn a little bit more about her, but he's using the reputation of the teak to try and convince the crew that this is a really good idea, because they are charged with escorting, I don't know how else you say that, transporting Serapio from where they are to Tavo, which is supposed to be a 30-day ride, and they need to get there in 19. So they have to shave off 11 days, and that's something that the normal person can't do. They do require the magic of the teak to be able to summon winds, to be able to get the spot on direction, to stay on course, and to urge the waves to get there sooner as well. Beard Daddy Game says, lovely accent. Nimby says, what is this news story? And then Kay Frida says, it's a book club. Hi there, this is a book club that I do. We read a book a month. We talk about the first half in the first week, which is what we're doing right now. We'll talk about the second half of the book next week. This book is Black Sun. It's by Rebecca Roanhorse. It's an indigenous author talking about a fantasy setting from 4 main characters' point of views. We learn about different cultures and magic systems and very, very sort of diverse missions and goals to these 4 separate people in this land that has been created by the author. For a little bit of context, KP Dubs, another Star Wars reference. The cargo is passengers only, and it needs to be a fast ship. Charlotte definitely gives off Han Solo vibes. Hana Solo vibes. Colleen, do you want to drop that amazing nugget of information that you just posted? Something to tie Rebecca Roanhorse to the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, sorry, my grandson killed my touchpad, so I'm dealing with a mouse I'm not used to, and really fumbling around. But yeah, she has written, I think, a couple of Star Wars books. I know of at least one for sure.
She wrote Resistance Reborn, which is, I think, takes place in between some of the last 3 movies.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good on her. That's a really great win. But man, that's a slog. Those ones. Pylang says, Serapio reminds me of Scipio from Star Wars. Let's look up Scipio from Star Wars. Scipio from Star Wars. That's what? Who reminds you of that? Serapio? Scipio is a place. Scipio is a frigid mountainous world. Sorry to fact check you on that one. Name only. Oh, okay, got it. That makes far more sense. Okay, I'm glad we cleared that one up. Yes, Serapio, Scipio. There is a definite EO happening there. Shala, there was a bit of a interesting backlash, feedback, critique from a Sci-Fi Wire book critic who was talking about the fact that Rebecca Roanhorse included queer characters. So it's quite obvious that Shala is bisexual. We initially find she's been with a woman, but she also talks about her type being cute men. I would even go as far as to say she's pansexual. The definition of pansexual is that you're not attracted to gender, you're attracted to a person's essence. It's who they are. You just happen to like that person, whatever body they're in. And I feel like Shala kind of encompasses that mentality a little bit more. But this author's feedback or critique on it all, and Clever Girl says there will be more queer characters as well. The issue that the reviewer had with this was the fact that Shala was punished for being with a woman, and so that there is otherness with involving queer characters. And they said that the term queer, which is sort of like acknowledging that it's different from sort of the norm, and in white culture the norm is heterosexual, which is why the LGBTQ are all marginalized in comparison to what the norm has been dictated in white culture, and basically said that in these indigenous cultures, queer was not unusual. It was a version of normal. So whether you wanted to bet a man or a woman was so irrelevant, and it didn't have the air of otherness or punishment or it being wrong or being seen as anything that wasn't so fluid and normal. And so that was some of the interesting feedback that I read about that, which I thought was a conversation that was worth at least bringing up. Avery says, but she was arrested for sleeping with a woman or for sleeping with a lord's wife. It was adultery. It wasn't the fact that it was a same-sex relationship. It was purely because that woman was already married to a man. So it was adultery. I actually think that Rebecca Roanhorse has done an amazing job of not making it feel otherly at all. Shala completely owns her sexuality. She's not really criticized or punished for it, except when she's sleeping with someone's wife. And then when you look at sort of other ways that she introduces differences, so the fact that even though he was maimed, Serapio is blind, and being blind is a disability, but it's never introduced as him being disabled, because he's very abled. He's basically channeling superpowers. He's super heightened in so many ways. So I love the ways in which she brings this up. It's not one of those, well, this happens, and so we're going to talk about it, and it's very on the nose. It's done in such a seamless way that is never a sob story or, you know, even needing any sort of advocation. It's just because it's so normal and isn't different and is just simply a part of the story. I want to open up this conversation to the rest of the chat. Has anyone got any kind of observations about this? Colleen, thank you. Yes.
Okay, my interpretation was that it's certain cities, certain cultures that, okay, they're already afraid of her because she's teak and they have all these ideas. And then some of these cities along the way are very closed-minded, very conservative, but it's not like that through the entire world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think it was that one city, and yeah, it was a combination of things. It was adultery as well as same sex.
Okay, right. Avery, you've added a thought as well in the chat.
Yeah. So like, for me, I love the way that it's shown in this book, because so often, like, people have this idea that, like, in order to show, like, queer characters, they have to go through something. They have to go through oppression in order to truly be queer, to truly show the queer experience. And I don't think that's fair. And I love that this book they just are, you know, they just exist, and they just are themselves, and nobody cares, and it doesn't matter to the storyline. They just exist. And I love that because it's so refreshing, because it's very exhausting just reading about queer people being oppressed in this situation or that situation, or they have to overcome this, and they have to be rejected by their family to find their found family, or all, etc.
A sense of suffering.
Yeah. And I just,
like, yeah, that was
so
maybe
much nicer.
That was maybe a big thing. I know that there was the equivalent of sort of, and I think maybe Kate, this sounds like something that you would could weigh in on as well. When sharing, you know, women's strength, it was usually through sexual assault, and it's like she's stronger because of it, and it's just like, how dare you make that a rite of passage where a woman has to endure the worst thing so that she can be a better person for it. It's like almost like a badge of honor that this story has provided.
And it's not even like the whole thing with Game of Thrones too, with Sansa, what she went through, and that the whole backlash of the line where I'm, you know, stronger because of it. Like, I was glad it happened, or whatever line they made her say. It's also a big romance trope, or it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Sexual assault is a way for a woman to have a more quote unquote pure love with the main male lead because he didn't assault her. Thing.
Fuck. That's so bad.
That's tragic.
Isn't that? It's like, well,
tragic.
Here are my choices. I guess I'm just glad.
And also look at every single Harlequin novel where it's like the guy's a huge douchebag who like borderline rapes her, and then it's like, oh no, he's just tortured. He really loves me.
He just didn't know how to express it.
I like this guy because he doesn't hit me.
Yes.
Like, what? Who cares? Like, that's, I mean, yes, you care, but that's one thing.
Yeah, but
I used to
the host of things.
When I do like the Harlequins at work, when I like put them out on the shelf, I'm always just, you can hear me grumbling in the back corner and always like, what is wrong with the heterosexuals?
Yeah, why don't they get it? I do love that storytelling. I mean, this book was written in 2020, and I really think, I guess like a thing that I've experienced is 10, 15 years ago, it was all about women, female gamer. I'm a woman DJ. You know, it was almost like we needed our gender as a descriptor, as an adjective, and then there was a sense of no, she's not a female gamer, she's just a gamer. Like, we're all just a game. We don't need that differentiation, you know. because it was something that we're trying to highlight and recognize. And it's maybe that overswing where it's like it possibly needed that initially to kind of break the ground and to try to normalize it. But I think also the best way to normalize it is just to make it fucking normal. That's a pretty easy way to do it. And I really appreciate the normalization of these things because it is. That's what we're learning about. You know, we've spent so long knowing that the default was a straight white guy. And now it's like, no, we come in all shapes, sizes, colors, you name it. And that's normal. So that's really cool. Kate, you had an extra thought to add. Oh, yes, exactly.
Did? What was my extra thought?
You just commented it.
Oh, with the queer characters too, like where it's like you can't just be lawyer, baker. It's got to be like lesbian baker, gay lawyer, bisexual mechanic. It can't just be, you know, their person. It has to be the sexuality, right?
Because it's like,
and like how people often use actors and actresses.
What do you mean?
People often use actor instead of actress now. Vaden was saying it. Never mind.
Oh, so we differentiate between, oh yeah, actor, because that's it doesn't need a gender descriptor difference. It's like, are you acting? Therefore you're an actor. And I think that had to do with the fact that the academies are like 82 years old and they wanted to differentiate sort of like best male actor, best female actress. And it was like a separation, but that's just a little unnecessary now. I feel like it's getting different, but we're noticing, Avery and I, like we're championing and celebrating the fact that there's not a spotlight or using a you know, their point of difference as a character plot device or growth. Like it's just so fucking unnecessary. Yes. Odd the Quiet says, oh. No thanks, Odd the Quiet. Trying to get me to play a horror game. We're good. It's November. I missed all that. Yes, Colleen says, in real life, there's a myth that we are stronger because of abuse or assault and act like it's a good thing. It's so not the case. It's fucking trauma and it sets us back and it means us, it's not that at all. But yes, it's almost glorified in storytelling, which is so wrong because it actually is subconsciously not just permitting and allowing, but excusing assault because the person was better off after it. No, don't assault. I could go on about that. Kate says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is such a fucking lie. Trauma doesn't make you stronger. It changes you irrevocably. You either get crushed under the weight of trauma or you soldier on, but you're still dragging the weight. It doesn't go away. And trauma shows up in different ways. Trauma is not just a response for physical, mental, emotional, or sexual assault. Trauma can come because of neglect. Trauma can come about from a post-traumatic situation. There's so many ways that trauma can get there. But yeah, the fact that it's like, if it doesn't kill you, then you're stronger for it. No, you literally just survived. It's surviving. It's not thriving. And I think that we need to kind of nix the whole, you soldiered through it, you're amazing. Thanks to Zach, who's shouting out on TikTok. Appreciate you. Pailang says, time heals all wounds. False. Time festers wounds. Yes, you either learn to cope or not. Yeah. Oh, dear. Avery says, the amount of times that I've seen someone ask for book recommendations where queer characters are happy or just exist. I almost always recommend this one when I see that. I would love to get a list of books going of, stories where it's like they're not villainized, traumatized, tested, ousted, ostracized. But I also want to recognize that I don't want to take away or minimalize any of the prejudice that the queer community have experienced either. Like that has been a very, very real thing. But it's that assessment that I said before where it's like we've moved on from having to trudge through the negative experience. Now we actually just get to celebrate it because it's pretty cool. Yeah. Alrighty. But Xiala's the fucking best. She's got magical abilities. She sang this song to calm the ocean. She can move ships forwards. She had a little bit of an intellectual magic off with Serapio as well, which was really, really interesting to see. And then they start bonding over each other's culture. They don't necessarily know much about each other's lands, people, what's important to them. And so they share stories and they bond over the uniqueness and how different they are, whilst also being so similar because they've been ostracized over their differences. It's a really, really beautiful bonding moment where it's like, I can imagine that, you know, in the schoolyard where two people have, you know, been told that they can't sit with anyone else and so they're sitting by themselves, they team up. Like that is such an important thing because you can always find your people. And I think that that's the message here. Like you have to find your people. Play the board. You've got a really astute observation that you just did a comment. Would you like to chat further on it?
It's really in response to talking about how sexual assault, people try to give it this era of, well, you've been through so much, and the way that is with trauma. It is really turning the necessity of having to cope with something into a virtue. And I think that it is a common human phenomenon. It's really hard times. We have to eat just this real plain food and be really frugal. And now frugality is really a virtue, and look at what we've done without. The men have gone to war and women have to work in the factory. That wouldn't have been a virtue before, but it's a necessity now. So it's a virtue.
Oh, an interesting, yeah. What a take on that. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
Yeah. This is why I love book club. This is why I love it. We haven't even spoken about Narumpa yet. So let's get to Narumpa's story. I just don't like the narrator for Narumpa's, but I think it's really interesting. So what we've said, you've got your Han Solo's mission to transport Luke Skywalker, the chosen one, across the galaxy. In this instance, you've got Serapio, who, it's so interesting how it did not click with me. That did not even click with me. But it helps explain it completely. But I love it from this perspective. Serapio, who is technically the chosen one, who's a vessel for a god soon to be, needs to get to a destination in time for the convergence. And the best person for the job is Xiala. And Xiala is a Teak, a woman who's able to, like, she's like got siren abilities. She's able to use her voice to gain control or to oh no. Oh, that's a bummer. Okay. Interesting. So I'm just commenting from Lisa's comment. If you read it, you read it. Kate, hold on to that point because I do want to get to that. Narumpa. Oh, Avery says Narumpa is a person born into oppression, grows up to become the oppressor. I don't see her as an oppressor so much, and maybe I'm getting this wrong completely. She definitely has the rags to riches story. She grew up in the slums as a part of their system. A few children at a certain age go off to to go into priesthood. She basically climbed the ranks and is now the sun priest. This particular, it's sort of religious in a way. They focus on astrology and astronomy. They haven't really had any instances with war lately, but it turns out that they are favoring and focusing on the powerful and the rich. So they are catering to the top of the food chain.
They implemented a pretty awful purge where they slaughtered a ton of carrion crow because they were I guess rebellious or heretics or whatever, and then
yeah, the Night of Knives, says Vaden. Yes, there was a night where there was mass slaughter so that they could keep control of the situation. So that's sort of like the broken foundation of their history. That's the ugly truth. She's in a repressive society with the religion, but she's trying to change that and make it more relatable to the people, says Colleen. Yes, tell us about Narumpa's main struggles. Colleen? You want? Yeah.
Narumpa, yeah, she grew up in the bad part of town, so to speak, and the worst situation in the city, that most of it's up on high cliffs and you know well-to-do, and she grew up down in the mud, where and she's been told nothing good ever comes from there. She was told by her parents that when she said she wanted to become a scholar, that, well, you can go and serve in the Sun Temple.
Stay low, stay low.
But not, yeah. And it's, so she has this, she sees people from this point of view, but she's also seems to be ashamed of where she came from. She's lost all contact with her brothers.
Well, one of them is a crime lord that she's telling everyone is dead because that's easier than the truth.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, that's, I mean, it's a really bad situation she comes from, and somehow she manages to overcome all of that. But to a certain extent, even though that's shaped her perspective, she also seems to be ashamed of it.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't think she's had any support. I think that, you know, when we talk about being ostracized and isolated and feeling alone, she's ruling without any real support except from Iktan. So that's really interesting as well. Like that insecurity, or that being told you're less than your whole lives, and then you're supposed to all of a sudden believe it just because you've got a position. No, yeah. Avery, I want to get a little bit more clarity for how she's not intentionally an oppressor.
So, like, she clearly has good intentions. Like, she believes that the system can be good and can work, and she's trying to make a difference. But because of everything that society is built off of, I mean, they basically came in and, like, took over all these areas and wiped out all these people to gain full control. And in order to maintain that control, they need to still keep the like cults and everything down. So she believes she can make it better, but because the system is built on oppression, she is still an oppressor.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. Kate, I love your analogy that she's a pick-me girl. She's essentially one of the middle-class white women who are caught up in this current midterm American election. Well said. Do you want to expand on that? And tell people that don't know what a pick-me girl is too.
Well, she kind of, I don't think she's that insidious about it, but she kind of had ideas about how to make things better because she does come from a different place. She's not the status quo of the other people in the court. But at the same time, like, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. She had good intentions, but she's now part of the machine. She's doing all of these, like, political machinations. She's, going through the motions kind of thing that previous her wouldn't have, but she's kind of gotten comfortable in the rule, and she's very, kind of beyond her ideals now. And where you guys mentioned that she's, like, kind of ashamed of where she came from, that shame is kind of, like, cowing her a little bit, because you can see the way everyone else is kind of like, oh, she's so cute, like her silly, Reformation ideas, or they're openly hostile towards her.
They're defying her. Yeah, she has not garnered the respect of her people. And I think if she were a leader that was able to sort of step up in that position, that was confident and that could actually invoke a change, then that would be one thing. But people are standing all over her, and she's realizing that things could be worse. And so she kind of has to fall into line and play by the rules so she doesn't lose that because she did come from nothing and she knows what nothing feels like. That Brad Guy 21 on TikTok says, I love book club. This is so cool. You guys are talking about books. How do I join? I'm so glad you asked. So this is a book club that we do 2 shows every month. The first and second, usually Wednesday of the month, but I had a commitment last night. And you can join by getting involved with the Discord. You can get in that. Are you clearing your throat, Tim? Who's got? Oh, that's you, Tames.
No, that was me. Sorry.
If you head over to patreon.com/geekbomb, GEEKBOMB, for $5, the smallest tier that we have, you get access to the full unlocked Discord. We have a 24/7 reading channel. We have a Google Doc of notes that we talk about per book. We have a book list and recommendations, so we can select the books leading up to for the rest of the year, basically, and into next year. We have a call, so you're able to jump on and we actually can have a conversation about it. And then I also do a second book club for the second 2 Wednesdays of the month with Nerdist. And with Nerdist, Rachel Hine and I will do 2 one-hour shows to talk about the first and second half of the book. And then we have a sneaky after show. And that after show takes place in that Discord call that only members have access to. It is not recorded. It's a secret little society that we have there. So if you want to get involved with that, head to patreon.com/geekbomb, sign up to the $5 tier for book club, and we'll see you in here. You'll join straight. That Brad guy says, I'll head over there right now. Sounds amazing. God, I got to plug my shit more. It actually works somehow. So I keep forgetting people could be interested in this. So yeah, Brad, hope we have you in the book club because we tackle all fantasy and sci-fi. And this is a really great example of an epic fantasy book that we're all really digging at the moment too. Ken, you had extra notes that you wanted to add. The separation between the priests and the common people has grown. So she's seeing this divide and wants to do something about it. I'd love to hear more on that.
Really just what I typed. You know, at the beginning when they're doing their trek across the towns, all the other priests and acolytes and everybody are like, oh, what are we doing this for? What a pain. It's cold out, blah, blah, blah. And she's basically saying, look, we're getting separated from the people. They don't know us. They don't recognize us. They don't trust us. We have to get back into the communities. And then she's like, you guys are to the one, Abba or whatever, like, you guys are the healers. Get into the town and heal people.
Yeah.
Like, we can't just sit up in our literal ivory tower all day and look at the stars. We have to be part of the people, or what's the point of everything? Of course.
What's the point of being in a position where you can make a change if you don't do anything about it? Yeah,
and
I think that
they're stabbing her in the back, kind of literally for it, because they don't want to do that.
Yes, I know, and they want to. Gosh, there's an equivalent of it. Ooh, shouldn't say this on a public forum, but the equivalent that I've experienced is like the Golden Globes, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, where they have found a very, very cushy place to be, where they get spoiled by movie studios in the hope that their movie will win a Golden Globe, because obviously the Golden Globe nominations or winnings means the movie's better. So there was quite a corrupt little system going there where they didn't want to let new people in, and they made it a very exclusive group because they were lapping it up, and they didn't want to disrupt what they were getting, even though it was negatively affecting other people. There were so few diverse people in the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and then all the awards were being won by just whoever had the most money. So that were usually white actors and directors. So that was a flawed system, but they wanted to protect that because they were gaining a lot from it. So, and we can probably put the same thing in American politics with the NRA. They love that gun money. Guns are killing people, but that gun money be so good that they're not going to change the policies because the money's great. I mean, we can apply this to so many different areas, and it's this thing where, yay, Brad did it! Brad! He said he was going to...
Are we going?
Yes! I got a notification pop up. That's awesome. Oh, that means Brad's going to be automatically added into the Patreon. So I have to tell him to come on and introduce yourself.
Way to go, Brad.
If Brad's name is Mirror Matrix. Is that you, Brad? Are you Mirror Matrix? If so, let me right click here. What's your role? I don't know. But if you've signed up to Patreon and you connect your Patreon and your Discord, you'll automatically get that role unlocked. I told you I was excited. Oh, you don't think so? Did you join the Discord, Brad? He's over in the TikTok commenting. I want to get you into the group so you can say hi. We'll do it live. Play the board and Paulina saying, welcome, Brad. Hey, Tames, if you're not talking, can you mute? Sorry, I can hear.
So sorry. I was about to talk, but I'll
go
stop.
for it. No, go for it.
Yeah, well, besides apologizing for coughing, I'm muted. I did have a comment.
Yeah.
In terms of Narampa, I do think there's a little bit of potential because I think the Sun Priest is the most powerful, at least outwardly powerful, because they're the Oracle, I think. Because there's like what a healer, assassin, historian. So they're the face, they're like the president. But like real presidents, they often find that having like being the most outwardly notable like power doesn't always mean you have the power to actually do anything. So you have to make alliances and you have to convince a lot of people. And I think like some other people that say took over Twitter or like actual American presidents, it turns out that you have to like cut a lot of deals, or there's always networks behind.
Yes, there's a lot of.
So she saw that with the
handshaking. Yes, and she doesn't play the game. She's not. She doesn't have sort of like devious alter. You know what I'm trying to say. She's not nefarious. She's not trying to exploit the system. She was given this position.
Well, she's bad at the politics, possibly, and she has to learn to be better at it. Yeah, she's trying to get better at it if she wants to do anything.
Yes,
she wasn't born into it, was the thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
She doesn't have the connections.
Yep.
No, but she's not playing the game.
Well, if I may.
Yes.
I was gonna say I think part of the reason she's getting a lot of this pushback from the other priests is because they all know her background, right?
I'm so sorry. I'm trying to listen to you. I just gotta. Can I read out this comment to everyone?
Yes.
Shish K24 on TikTok says, Maude. This is right after J Roker 263 says, oh my goodness, I haven't seen Maude in so long. Cheers. Hello. We will have a good stream. But then Shish K24 says, Maude, I had a crush on you in middle school. Not so much anymore, sorry.
Oh. Oh.
You don't say the second part.
Wow.
Sorry, I just got the giggles over that. Okay. Sorry, now I have you have my undivided attention. Continue.
Well, anyway. I was going to say, I think part of the reason she's getting some of this pushback is because she doesn't have the connection to what you want to call high society, for lack of a better term. And all the other priests know that. So when she's trying to reconnect the priesthood with the common people, they just see that as her trying to drag them down to the commoner level. And that's just a societal thing. Like that happens here in the real world. Like how often do you see somebody kick a homeless person? Like, get a job, you bum. Like that's a societal thing. And I think that's why she's getting a lot of this pushback, and she's getting a lot of the backstabbing from the other two priests, especially, and the various political intrigue. And
you can see why there's like quite a obnoxious, in a way, like a bit of a coup happening, where Ava is just undermining her. She's a lot younger, but she's strategically sleeping with someone to gain more power so that she can get in the ear of who's supposed to be taking over her when she moves on. So Ava is playing this chess game. She's, very clever in what she's doing. Nothing's an accident. And she's undermining her in ways where Narampa can't exactly say, that's unfair, or that's uncalled for, or you're being this. She's like, no, I'm just trying to support you. But she's doing it in such a clever way. And it takes me back to high school.
I was thinking, Ava's like, was it the Reese Witherspoon character in Election?
Yes.
Remember that movie?
It's a bit like that, absolutely. That's so funny. I'm still trying to help Brad get in on here. But Brad, you have to tell me what your Discord name is. If you do that, I can get you into the room. I'm trying to help you. So let me know what your Discord name is and I'll get you into the group so we can say hi. Oh, there it is. Okay. 1 second, everyone. Sorry, we're doing it live. Did you join? There you are. Boom. Yeah. Okay. You should now have access to the rest of the Patreon, the Discord chat. Scroll all the way down to book club and you can see there's about 15 of us hanging out. There's about 15 of us hanging out in a book chat. There he is! Brad! Welcome to the show!
I am?
You did it! You did it. Hi. Here you were minding your own business, scrolling through TikTok, and now you've joined a book club group. Do you have any idea what you're in for?
I don't think so. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time.
Oh, this particular book club or a book club?
Just any book club, but it sounds like this is the book club.
This is your new favorite book club. So we cover sci-fi and fantasy. The first iteration of Geek Bomb's book club was established in 2014, where it was mainly focused on talking to the authors about the book. But this one, I decided to build out a community where we all get together and talk about a book. I love the accountability where we all get through books together. We do have a reading chat in there, so we'll all be able to kind of check in with the book and talk about other books as well. But I also love the fact that we do a breakdown for the first half of the book and then the second half of the book. So we don't have to read an entire book by ourselves and then weigh in on it. We get to kind of talk at the halfway point. And so this is the book we're covering at the moment, which means if you want to join in by next week, you have to read the whole dang book in a week. Can you do that? Actually, in 6 days, because we're meeting up next Wednesday.
I'm moving now, so I mean, I'll try. I'll read while I drive, I guess.
Oh, audio
can
books.
It can be done.
Cat Stranger, Tim, do you want to share your, because you had this same thing where you're like, I was going to read this book, and it was the first half.
It wasn't even that. Like, I just popped in because you were streaming live on Twitch, and I was like, okay, I'll see what this is about. And then you were talking about Project Hail Mary.
Yes.
And I was like, this book sounds amazing. I'm going to read it now so that I can talk about it in 2 weeks with the next thing. So I read the whole book in 4 days because I had to order it from Amazon and it had to ship. And I'm weird about books, so I had to finish the book I was in the middle of first.
Yeah.
But it can be done.
Yeah, of course. How many pages is it?
This one?
It's 42 chapters. We can get a page count for you, though.
It's 450, but it feels really fast.
Yeah.
They're short.
I rave about audiobooks. I think audiobooks are the way to go. I walk around my neighborhood with my dog, and when I'm driving, I listen and I get through books. Now, Sigils, who you just saw follow there, a dear friend of mine, his name's Andrew. He wrote a book. It sounds really flipping cool. He told me about the premise before it came out. Blue Reader Girl says 450 pages, by the way, Brad. 450 pages for that one. You can do it. But Sigils wrote a book. It's on my Goodreads if you want to find a link to it. Sigil says, I did not expect that to pop up on screen. Haha, whoops. But definitely check out his book. When he was telling me about it, I was like, this is a little bit like a more modern version of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, where someone makes a deal with the devil and it never turns out how you think it's going to go. Where's my Goodreads? Sigil, where can people find your book? Where's the best place to get it? I'm going to read the synopsis just because he's in here, and I really want to shout out my mate because I think anyone who writes a book is so incredible. If you go into currently, you did not mean to derail. On Amazon, says Sigils. So it's called Soul Fraud. I'm going to read out the blurb for you. Soul Fraud. It's book 1 of the Debt Collection series by Andrew Givler. Why did I get that wrong? It's fucking dyslexia. Givler. Matthew Carver has a terrible life. Seriously, it's awful. It's so bad that Dan the Demon is shocked when Matt turns down his infernal offer 10 years of blissful life in exchange for his soul. But Dan's a salesman behind on his quota, and his demonic managers are running out of patience. He forges Matt's signature on the dotted line, stealing his soul and thrusting him into a supernatural world he never knew existed. Now, Matt must figure out how to get his soul back and stop a war before it's too late. If that's a book you want to pop on your TBD or your list, it's on sale, 13% off at the moment. I'm going to pop that in the reading Discord so everyone can check out my mate's book, Soul Fraud. I think it's very, very impressive.
I'm adding it to my Goodreads now.
And that's how we do this. The book community is amazing. We just want people to read good stuff. And if you write a book, Sigil, we'll have to try and do like some author show, talk about how you write a book and do a sit down like that. If you're down. The other thing I was going to do, Brad, since you are a brand newest member of Geek Bomb's book club, I got a few questions for you if you're open to answering them on the spot like this.
Absolutely.
Number one, what kind of books do you find yourself reading? What kind of books do you like reading? What's your genre of choice?
You know, I mix it back and forth. If I do fantasy, I'll mix up fiction and nonfiction back and forth. That's just my style.
I'm a bit like that. I have a book for every mood. Yeah. I'm so fine with reading 7 books at one time.
Oh, wow.
What's your favorite book? What's your drink of choice?
Oh my gosh, can anyone really answer that without going into genre? The book that really spoke to me. Have you guys read Into the Wild?
Inch of the Wild?
No, Into the Wild.
Into the Wild. Yes.
Yes.
Made into a motion picture that came out in 2013 or something.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that one always spoke to me. But wow. To be put on the spot, now I'm like blanking out.
Cash 22 says soundtrack by Eddie Vedder for that movie. Yes, good stuff.
Amazing.
And where are you calling in from? Where are you based in America?
Well, right now I'm in Springfield, Illinois. I'm actually moving down to Florida.
Oy.
As there's a hurricane going through.
Well, that sounds like you're going into the wild yourself.
Yeah.
I hope you fare better. Don't eat mushrooms or berries. The berries,
Sure.
right?
Right.
Clever Girl says if you want, you can always list your favorite books in the reading portion on the Discord.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Don't buy meth from the alligators. Come on. A little bit about Geek Bomb's book club. We love sci-fi and fantasy. This year alone, let's go over some of the books that we all read, community. January, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Shit, Lisa, you're gonna help me better than this, surely. We've got a graphic. We've got a picture. Don't we? Is it in the pin? I'll find it. There it is. Boom. I'm going to bring it up to...
Yeah, it's in the pinned post.
Browse new picture. Where do you think it's saved on my computer? Right here. Alrighty. Whoops. Here we go. So in January, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. In February, we finished off the Mistborn trilogy. That was the book. Well, that was book 2 of the Mistborn trilogy. In March, we read. I have to make it big because I can't read it. Gods of Jade and Shadow by Maria Sylvia. What was her name again? I can't read it. It's so small.
Sylvia Garcia Bernal. Sylvia Moreno Garcia.
Sylvia Marina Garcia.
You guys are all butchering that poor woman's name.
Like, we're not welcome back. We've done 2 of her books, one on Nerdist, one here, and you know what? We undid all the work in one swell foop.
Wow, Maude.
Oh, Maude, you're drunk.
Wow. What are you drinking over there?
1 swell
2 shots of vodka. Glug, 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 glug.
One swell poop. That's good stuff. April, we finished off the Mistborn trilogy. May, we loved Andy Weir so much that we read The Martian, and Mama Garrett dropped on by. Brad, if you stick around, you'll chat with my mum one day. June, we read The Priory of the Orange Tree. I get Priory vibes from this one, having the story go through different points of view and a lot of world building and sort of like the mysticism. Kay Frito says your dyslexia is a gift to all of us. Shit. In July, we read Gideon the Ninth by Kiwi author Tamsin Muir. In August, my second favorite book of the year, we read the House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. In September, we read Harrow the Ninth, and I had to stop the series there, even though it continues 2 books more. It's Lesbian Necromancers in Space. October, we read Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, the same author that did Gone Girl. That book was fucking tough. November, we're doing Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. And in December, we're going to tackle the Murderbot novellas. So we're going to read the first 4 novellas in the Murderbot series, which is apparently about this robot who's got a change of heart from being a murderbot, which is apparently a really, really gorgeous, funny series. Nona the Ninth was so good, says Kate. Ken wants to read Nona the Ninth after this one as well. Alrighty. Back to the chat. So you haven't read this book, Brad, I'm guessing.
No, I haven't.
What have you liked about what we've said so far? God, I'm putting you on the spot.
It's just incredible to be able to just talk about it openly. I always make notes. I make so many notes about the books I read, and just to be able to share it with other people, sounds incredible.
Yay! Okay, cool. Yeah, no, this is a lot of fun. Kate, I just read your little comment about how you had an Australian customer today. And you went, oh, Maude. Yay! I'll take it. Indirectly. Yay. I'm trying to go back to our notes. Oh, we haven't even spoken about Okoa yet. Let's get into that. So we've kind of understood Narumpa, pick me girl, doing the best with what she can, but she's still not fighting for the good team. There's an assassination attempt on her life. She has an are they, aren't they sort of relationship with Iktan, who I think is a really, really fascinating character. But the introduction of Okoa happens around chapter 16. So we're like quite into this book before we're introduced to a new character, which threw me the first time I listened to it. My goodness. Oh, yes, Kate, you made this comment earlier. Let's revisit that. Let's get you on the mic.
Pasted it down near the bottom of the chat so you wouldn't have to scroll for it.
But
I liked how they introduced Okoa because the 3 characters we had so far were all very kind of like different points of view. So Rampa was like the Sun Temple and the Sun Priest, and then we had Shala and Serapio in the boat. But now we have Okoa, who's also a Carrion Crow, but we're seeing it from a very different perspective than Serapio. Like Serapio is very much the lore of the Carrion Crow, and he's like religious ideology, and I mean he's been separated from them, so he's not showing like the day-to-day. And with Okoa, we kind of see how they're existing now in the city after the Night of Knives. So it's kind of like those 2 characters together are giving us a very interesting perspective on Carrion Crows as a group or as a house, if you whatever.
Yes, and it actually starts piecing together a little bit more about what this convergence could be. Does anyone know what the convergence, what they predict is going to happen? We know that it's taking place in Tova. We know that Serapio needs to be there by that date. We know that because of the title Black Sun, there's an eclipse. It's about the winter solstice and like the movement and positions of the sun and the moon. But has anyone got a guess on what's gonna go down? Any predictions?
My guess.
Yes.
My guess is I'm clearly basing this off of the Mayan stuff that I know of, because I live in America. I live in New York, right? And there's a lot of talk about Native American stuff in New York, and when the Mayan culture would want to embrace some sort of gift or whatever, it was usually through sacrifice, So my understanding is that this person will go to whatever desired location it is, sacrifice something be it himself or someone else, and then be granted or cursed in some way. That's pretty much, without going into huge detail, what I would think happened.
Right.
I think they're heavily suggesting that he's gonna come into the city and reveal himself as you know, being that deity that his mother predicted, and then at least the faction of the Carrion Crows who are waiting for this coming of their Messiah are gonna potentially look to rise up, and then there's gonna be, whether or not that creates a big civil war as they get their vengeance on the people that killed them, or that killed the people who were heretics during the night of the long knives. I have a feeling it works out, but maybe not.
Carrion crows.
It's not just a big civil war.
The carrion crows literally fly on giant crows. Like, that is going to be so epic if it comes to sort of like building an army, but having like crows fly into battle. Like, sick.
But each team has humongous beasts they get to ride on, though, right?
Go on.
I think because the Eagles, I think, have humongous, because they talk about how every team has pens.
Yes.
So the Eagles have humongous eagles, and then one of them have humongous water beetles.
That's right.
And what's the last one? There's another water one, I think, right?
Like they called it the water spider.
The water stratus? Yeah, the big water bug.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
so
it's
I'm so
serpent, yeah.
fascinated by there's two different sides,
Winged
right? There's two as I'm
serpent.
reading. As I'm reading through the notes, there's two different factions, correct? That the mother and father have. That can anyone explain like the two different sides? That's kind of interesting.
So there's four.
Well, no, he's saying
four.
Serapio's mum and dad are a part of the.
Oh yeah, there's the Obregi who are totally different, right? They live in a city. Obregi, sorry, they live in a city. Obregi, yeah, they live in a city of. Is that the Lord City? I can't remember. But they're very different from the Carrion Crow people.
Yeah, so the Obregi, they're like the mountain people. So basically, Serapio. Oh, you've got the document and you're looking at the notes and everything. So Serapio's father and mother, like the father was a lord, I believe. He was someone quite high up. But the mother's belief system, she was basically given some sort of message that her son was going to be the vessel of God. And so he had to undertake this ritual, which involved sort of carving his skin, carving a crow skull at the nape of his neck and wings on his back, and blinded him when he was 12. And then she died. I think Dad caught wind and killed the mother for doing it.
No, she kills herself. She throws herself off the building.
Oh, she does it.
She just jumps off the building.
Oh, I thought she got murdered.
Wasn't his mother actually a Carrion Crow like citizen that married into the Obregi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, which would make Serapio a half-breed, for lack of a better term.
Yes. So he had different coloring. And remember how like he was almost ostracized when he was a child because he looked a little bit different because he had lighter hair. He had a different sort of look about him. But Destiny has chosen and selected him. Why? There's something to do with the convergence. He's a vessel for God.
I love the notes.
Would it be because he's literally a convergence?
Hey, Tim, let Brad finish the sentence. I know you have to nail your pun. Sorry, Brad, what were you saying?
No, I just said I love the note, is this child abuse?
Yeah, that was my question. I really thought that, like, what's the difference between sort of like administering culture and child abuse? Because in this instance, you're literally mutilating a child. But we glossed over that a little bit. Colleen.
I keep relating this to Navajo culture, but I know it's not the only matriarchal indigenous society. But in Navajo culture, you are, your mother determines the clan you belong to. And so he may have grown up in an Obregi town, but clan-wise, he would be Carrion Crow.
Got it.
Also, the cult of the Crow god is expecting the return of their god at the convergence.
Yes.
And that's part of why he has to hurry and get there.
Yeah, because but why is he needed? What's happening? What's going down, Colleen?
Well, he is the God personified. So it's his mission to be there at the convergence to reveal himself and bring Carrie and Crow back into power. They were almost annihilated at the Night of the Knives. So he's their their Messiah, that he's coming back to restore Carrie and Crow to the place and power that they belong.
Yeah, she's gonna go down. KB Dove says he's God birdsonified. No, that was really good. Hey, look at this cute little picture. Yay. This is Vaden posted it in the reading chat. I actually looked it up as well because I wanted to have visual aid. This is Serapio and Shala. Oh, it's so cute. Look. She's drawing on his hand. I like drawings and I like seeing people's interpretation of these characters. It's a lot of fun. So what's going on with Okoa? He's the Carrion Crow Prince. He studied at War College, although there isn't really war since of the Night of Knives. It's more about honoring sort of like legacy, tradition. They learn these things as a rite of passage in a way. But he returns home to devastating news. His mother is dead. The Carrion Crows being matriarchal. She was the leader. She was the queen. And they said that she died. Now, they weren't going to reveal how. They didn't want it to be known that it was a suicide. She jumped. She jumped off a balcony and she died. And they were like, we're going to keep this under wraps. We're just going to say she passed in her sleep. So let's keep this illusion alive. And he's basically coming back to the knowledge that his sister is going to step up as the new queen. But he's also given a piece of paper through his cousin. His cousin's like, you were supposed to read this. And he got this gut feeling that he shouldn't open it in front of his cousin. And so he decided to open it in private. And there's a symbol on it. And this symbol basically confirms that his mother was murdered. So now we're seeing within sort of like the Sun Priest area, Narampa has had attempts on her life. There's a constant threat of an assassin kind of taking care of her. And I remember in the someone can help me with this, but there are different factions where it's like you can go Sun Priest or a scholar or an assassin or another one. What is that?
Healer, historian, assassin, and oracle.
Yes.
Are the four.
Yeah.
So Abba's the healer, ironically, even though he's the sneakiest. And then the old guy is the historian who researched, I believe. And then the Sayos are assassins. They're like the guards or killers.
Yeah.
And then Narampa's the oracle, so she's the face. She gives the prophecies.
There you go. Yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, well, if you're getting trained to be an assassin, don't be surprised if there's assassins doing assassiny things. But you've got Okoa, who is kind of a warrior. He wears the traditional garb of being a warrior. He's more comfortable like that. What was really interesting, though, is he punched a wall to deal with his pain. I love it when women write about men where it's like, it looks so stupid to us. So we're going to write our men characters what we see you do. And I know this to be a fact. I know that instead of trying to cope with the actual feeling of emotion, it's easier to feel physical pain. Like I get that for some people. I just find it really interesting that that's Okoa's thing. Yeah, speaking from experience. Yeah, Tim, I'm not surprised. Sometimes you just got to punch a wall. I remember when I was like 9 years old, I was so angry I kicked a tree. I burst a blood vessel in my foot. You got to learn that lesson at least once. Anyone want to weigh in on Okoa and what's going to happen there? It's really interesting that he tripped and fell into Narampa and Iktan just stabbed, saw Okoa as a threat and wanted to take care of it, and then Narampa thinks that he's a threat as well, but that's not the case. So we're really entering the second half of this book on unsteady footing. We really could talk about chapter 20 if we want. Do we want to talk about chapter 20? It's so freaking cool.
I only read the first 2 pages. Also, it's not clear that Koa's not dead. At first, you knew Shala. I thought you meant Chayla, who's the cousin. So I'm like, wait, did they kill off Akoa and they're using the cousin instead?
I'm not following.
Oh, sorry. When you said it revolves around 4 characters, when you said Shala, I thought you said Chayla, who's Akoa's cousin,
Got
back
it.
at the War College. So that was
Shala.
like, was that a spoiler? Was it because they killed? Because he could be dead, right? Because Iktan could have just, stabbed him. For all we know, I'm only in 19. I guess it's 20 yet. So.
In chapter 20.
Well, I'm 2 pages into chapter.
Do it, Maude.
Okay, go ahead. It's okay.
I technically haven't read it, but if you want to spoil it, go right ahead. I'm not gonna.
I've only read pages, but you go ahead, Maude. It's your group.
You know what? There's foreshadowing. Like, it's been mentioned. It's been mentioned.
Do it, Maude. You exercise your power.
This is clearly not a democracy.
Avery's already read the book. Lisa says, no, I will leave.
It's a modocracy.
Yeah. A mod-tatorship?
Mod-tatorship.
I love potatoes. I really do. I love potatoes. Shala is so freaking cool, is all I will say. But I'm a little bit concerned with how she didn't know that about herself. Like, she knows that. How did she not know that, you know? Anyway, your homework's to finish the book. Actually, no. I want to talk about some of the themes. We were talking about crows. I think this is really, really interesting how crows come up a lot in fantasy. Just like dragons have become quite synonymous with fantasy, crows appear all the time. And when I was writing down what I thought the themes were, crow is a huge part of it. The Carrion Crows is a clan. He's carved with crows. He can summon crows. I was like, man, this is so cool. But this ain't the first time I've seen crows in a book. Immediately, my first thought was Wheel of Time. In the Wheel of Time books, they use crows to act as spies. So anytime crows are around, the big baddie can see through the crow's eyes. And so it was just this impending kind of all-knowing, all-seeing thing where no matter where you were, you couldn't outrun because there was always a crow there to see you. Lord of the Rings too, says Pylang. Actually, fire them off. What is something that has a crow in it? Let's talk about some of them. I want to talk about some of the book titles that have crows in it. We covered one of them. 6 of Crows. The Crows was an analogy for sort of like this band of thieves and the Shadies. Counting Crows. There you go. That's a band. The movie The Crow. Sure. Wiggle Every Time Boop says, first time chatter, they had spy doves too. There you go. The Raven Boys is another fantasy book. Master of Crows, Murder of Crows, The Crow, Follow the Crow, A Feast for Crows, George R.R. Martin. Now, George R.R. Martin loved his crows because there was the three-eyed raven. Raven and crows are sort of synonymous. The three-eyed raven was the seer, the all-seeing as well, who could see through the future, different times, could take over bodies as well. So the three-eyed raven was a big part of it. Ravens and crows, we're counting them in. God of War, says Oddball. Vaden says it's more like what fantasy doesn't use crows. But I wanted to kind of get a history of different regions and what they believe crows are. So in Norse mythology, and I linked the website if anyone wants to learn more about this, I think it's fascinating. There you go. Wiggle Every Time Boop says a lot of mages turned into ravens or crows in fantasy books. Yes. Is it Morgana was a crow? No, she was a wyvern. She was a dragon. Colleen says in Northwestern native culture, Raven was a trickster and the bringer of the sun. In Norse mythology, the two ravens, Hugin and Munin, fly around gathering information for the gods, for the god Odin, acting as his messengers. Odin is sometimes called the Raven God, and ravens often feature on Old Norse banners, armor, and jewelry. So again, this like messenger, the spy, bringing information, seeing a theme. In Swedish mythology, ravens are said to be the ghosts of murdered people. A murder of crows. In Irish mythology, Morrigan, who I just brought up in Dragon Age, Morrigan, who is associated with fate, death, battle, and the foretelling of doom, often appears in the form of a raven. I was fucking right. She's also a dragon, though. I'm getting really, really confused. Teen Titan Raven. Never mind. In Welsh mythology, the king Bran the Blessed, which translates to the blessed crow, is associated with crows, death, and resurrection, and his head is said to be buried under the current location of the Tower of London as a ward against invasion. In Hindu culture, crows appear regularly in Hindu literature and faith, often bringing information, appearing as omens, or acting as vessels used by the souls of the recently deceased or the ancestors. In Australian indigenous culture, the crow is a trickster as well, and an ancestral being. How interesting is that, though, Colleen, that the dreamland, the history of the indigenous people go back tens of thousands of years. Same thing for the indigenous people of America, and yet they hold that same piece of information, like that same thing about a crow. In Japanese, Chinese, and Korean mythology, the three-legged crow is a figure in East Asian mythology associated with the sun or with divine intervention. But yeah, usually in scroll up, Maude, scroll up faster. Where did I see it? I have it in the notes. I could change docs, but I'm not. There you go. Fantasy ravens. They're either spies for powerful magicians or gods. They're vessels for ancestors or dead spirits. They're harbingers of death and murder. They're bad omens. They're wise creatures with the power to foretell the future or influence fate, or they're the residents of towers. So anyway, this person wrote all about it. Yes.
So would we say they're good or bad? I mean, it seems like there's
majority.
No definitive...
Yeah, it does skew, but the majority of it's like quite a nefarious thing. So that's the thing. Like, if it's a good god that they're a messenger to, that's not a bad thing. But there is a stigma that that's an omen of misfortune, death. There's a bit of a negative trait. Like, a crow is not usually good luck. It's got a very negative connotation. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting. Vaden, you think that a theme of the book is trust and betrayal. Take it away, Vaden.
Okay, yeah. This it seems like a big thing for all the main characters. Like Serapio was told not to trust others by his first instructor, Pade.
Yep.
And he doesn't. Narampe is being undermined by Abba, who's supposed to be serving her in the tower in general.
Yep.
Giella is concerned with her crew because they're very superstitious about her Teak heritage.
Yep, she's trying to win over their trust. Yep.
Yeah, and then Okoa is also concerned because he gets his last words of his mother from someone who he trusts a lot, but he doesn't read read her final words to him because his instinct tells him not to. So he knows that he's not telling her the full truth. So
yeah, trust and betrayal. We're gonna see more of that as well in chapter 20. Differences in culture. This is one of the themes that I had. So even within the Carrion Crows, Serapio's mother and father are from different regions and have different outlooks on their culture. Serapio is said to become a god, but he undertakes a painful ritual performed by his mother. Oh yeah, what were your thoughts on this? Clearly, Serapio's mother never taught him not to stare directly into the solar eclipse. Yes, we brought that up. KP Dub says not just him, but many Carrion Crow children are marked with the Hahun, which are tattoos, scars, to remember the Night of Knives when many of their people were slaughtered by the government. The Sun Priest have a different sort of take in their culture as well. And then Ciala's people, the Teak, they're more nomadic and, are at one with nature. So each of these regions have their different mythology, their differences. We spoke earlier about how disabilities and differences are not being shown as disadvantageous or a setback, or, you have to suffer because of who you are and because you are different and therefore you're a better person because of it. Thank God. Hello, Tommy Stories. How are you? Thank you for joining us. You got us for another few minutes, so sit back, relax, and get your chat on. Being an outsider, is a huge theme here. It's what bonds Shala and Serapio. They're both different. They feel like outsiders and they connect over it. Serapio talks about how his powers are great, but he longs for human connection. Boy has been so lonely on this journey. Narumpa realizes that many other key members in the Sun Priesthood are from the same clans and not hers. So they have a kinship and they have a sense of loyalty to each other that she's just not privy to. She doesn't have those sort of bonds. She's quite isolated in her position of power there. And generational trauma. There was a beautiful quote, and it's in Narumpa's first chapter, and it basically talks about generational trauma so well. And I think it was with Aba is her name, sorry. Aba, who was like, it's so dumb. Why do we have to apologize for something that we didn't even do? Like, we weren't there on the Night of Knives. We didn't do it. Why should we apologize? And Narumpa so aptly and adequately says, it's because we still benefit from the results of that. And I thought that was so well said when we look at sort of America as a country, not only with sort of this country having slaves and the devise, and even like up into the 1950s with Jim Crow laws, that side of it with America's history, but also, I mean, Australia has this in common, but taking over the indigenous lands, where it's like white people kind of struggle going, well, but that wasn't our generation. We didn't do it. I didn't do it. I had no hand in that. It's like, yes, but we benefit from the results of what our ancestors did. We continue to benefit from it. And I was like, oh, that was well said. Yes, tapping into colonialism. Absolutely. KP Dub says, yes, that little exchange is so relevant in the real world. Yeah. And I loved hearing that. I was like, oh, yep. Sometimes you are so focused on what happened that you don't realize that it still impacts us today. And that even though we didn't have a hand in that, maybe we wouldn't have done that if it had been us, but we still continue to benefit from it. They're pretty much all the themes. I wanted to ask everyone, what's your favorite storyline so far? What's your drink of choice? Who's your favorite character? I think we're all Team Shala. Clever Girl says tribal lands are still under attack. Yes. Yes. So it's no excuse that it's a generational thing. It's still happening. So Kate says Shala, Shala, Shala. Avery says Shala. Vaden says Serapio and Shala bonding. Piling says Narumpa. I like the name. Play the Board says Serapio. Oddball says Shala. I like the C. Lisa says Shala and Serapio. I do love those two connecting. Adam says Adam. Thank you, Adam. Adam. Tim's leaning towards Nara. Jimmy likes Shala. Toaster Poster says Shala. Her powers are awesome. Epic MTZ, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate that. KP Dub says, my favorite is that there is not one main character. We have several and don't yet know who the hero and the villain are. Well, Serapio is a self-confessed villain, was labeled a villain and is now wearing that insult as a badge of honor. So that's cool. All right, yeah, I think that's everything. And that's time. Alrighty. I was going to... Shit. I was going to raid, but I'm streaming now. So maybe I won't button off. Maybe I'll just put a countdown in, have a sip of water. I'm about to play some Overwatch 2. Fuck, I really chose to do 2 hours of 2 hours, 2 lots of 2 hours back to back, huh? Is what it is. Your homework for this book, finish it. Brad, if you're up for it and you've got an Audible account, get Black Sun and listen to the whole dang book. If you listen to it on about 1.5, you'll finish it in 4.5 hours. Totally.
I have an 18-hour drive, so I think I can finish it. You
can listen to it on 0.7 if you choose. Drunk reading. What? And I just got raided? I'll shut the front door. Sonia, you sweet, sweet thing. She's rated. Timing is amazing. What the hell is that? What is that thing that I didn't like that was crawling? The truck was that? Did you see it? Was that what? Tech Gio77. Anyway, hi Sonia, how you been? Can we give a shout out? I don't even know if I got any mods in here. I shouldn't say that. Shout out. Oh my god, it's Firefox. 2 X's. Yeah, we did a shout out. Thank you so much to the followers that have just swung by. Big Mike Sky Blue and Petito127. Thank you so much for the follows. Oh, Amanda, you are here. Amazing. Cool. Yeah. So I just did book club for 2 hours where we're talking about Black Sun, which is an amazing fantasy book. If you need a book club, feel free to swing on by. Sign up to the Patreon. It's just $5 and you get to be in the chat. Everyone in the chat say hi. I love doing this. No one does it. And it's mediocre.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello.
Yay,
Well,
that's
bye.
everyone. Yes, we are wrapping it up. So I
Thanks,
do
Maude.
2 hours of book chat 2 times a month, and I get the crew in to do all that. KP Dubs, you've gifted some subs. Mordant Cassie, no. And Cypher got gifted a sub, thanks to you. And Son, you used your Prime, you sweet thing. Thank you so much for doing that. Sean, 1006, and Dark Raven, thanks so much. Dark Raven, we've just been talking about crows and ravens for the last 15 minutes and its importance and its constant appearance in fantasy. Are you the harbinger of death, or are you more just a messenger for a god? Let us know in the comments. We're going to wrap up book chat, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm about to jump on to play some Overwatch with some dear friends, Naomi, Naomi Kyle, who was on IGN's Daily Fix. We're going to be teaming up. Adam's in here. I think Adam's going to maybe join in as well. We'll see. But book club members, are we all cool finishing this book? Are we going to be excited? Do you want me to tell you what's going to happen in chapter 20?
Feel free.
Nope.
I'll figure it out.
It'll be fun.
Okay.
I want the mod version. That'd be fun. Go ahead.
No, I can't. We're not going to.
Fine, I'll read it.
Yeah, just power read through chapter 20 and then hit the spoiler chat, put it under some Adam Vision, put it under some of that covered text. Do spoiler chat. We'll do that. Colleen, that's a really funny picture. That's a crow carrying a knife. We love the Discord. All right, everyone. I'm going to jump off the Discord and I'm going to get stuck into some Overwatch. So I'm going to make things look a little different. I'll catch you all next week. Bye.
Bye, Maude.
Haters.
Night.
Got a new
Thanks
member
all.
and everything.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Night, Maude.
Hello.
Hey guys.
You can stick around. I'm going to play some Overwatch.
Good night.
But good night, book chat. I'm going to change the screen here. Pew. Oh, that's no good. Pew. There you go. The book's gone. Everyone, I'm hanging up. There we go. We got a new member live as we were playing. I'm live on TikTok as well. And someone on TikTok was like, I've always wanted to join a book club. And welcome, Brad. Brad's now a part of our book club, which is so cool. We're loving that. KP Dub says, Maude, you're at 199.9 thousand followers on TikTok. Did you follow yet? Ooh, I'm about to get 200,000 on that. That's nuts. I'm going to quickly just text Naomi to say I'm already live and that she can just join on in, I guess. But hi, everyone. Cool. I'm going to just disconnect a couple of people because they're still in a call. And I'm going to join up with Naomi. Adam, are you going to play? You going to play, you think? I have to change the game. We are no longer just chatting. We are going to play some... Oh, frick. I do have to... Amanda, I upload the VOD and it's going to be the same stream unless I cancel and go back on. Oh, no. We could just edit it.